Hello again. Welcome back to part 2 of the drawing workshop. I know where I'm at. Our drawing workshop. Today I'm going to be talking about how to draw in perspective. I think I'm going to cover 1 point and 2 point and probably very briefly 3 point in case you get bored with the first two. So this is just a little preview of what I'm going to be doing today. I'll talk also a little bit about diminishing shapes, or like how to draw like fence or tile floor in perspective. But first we will just get to the warm-up portion. I think today we'll do like hashes. If you're going to be drawing lots of lines, this will be helpful. So all you really have to do for this warm-up is draw hash marks. And when you're doing this, try to space them out pretty evenly, but don't go super slow. Kind of try to get your hand used to making strokes like that. You can vary the length of them and kind of feel like what part of your hand or your wrist is helping you make those. And then once you have a good little lineup, go back and cross hash them. So these are two different motions of your hand that are good to practice because it has a lot to do with being able to draw from various angles without turning your paper around. We don't want to have to do that because sometimes you'll want to tape your paper down. I don't think I'm going to do that today, but when drawing in perspective, sometimes it can be really helpful. So if you have painter's tape and you just have a single sheet of paper, you can always go ahead and tape the corners down to your workspace if you kind of feel like you're moving your paper around too much, because today, drawing into perspective, we'll be using a ruler as well as our pencil, and hopefully not too much the eraser. We'll see. Okay, so with that out of the way, I will show you the kind of components of a perspective drawing. Okay, so I guess I'll use both sides of the paper today. This first side I will do 1 point perspective. And you can see I have my ruler slapped down here, and I'm going to draw a light line across, and this is what we're going to refer to as the horizon line. It's not necessarily the horizon, like you don't have to include that in your drawing. It's more what is going to be eye level in your drawing, right? So this is kind of where the perceived eyes are looking. So for instance, if I was going to draw things in perspective, everything along this line would be pretty flat. You wouldn't have any dimension to it because it's facing you head on. You'll probably see what I mean later on. All right, so to start 1 point perspective, you draw a point. Mind-blowing. Okay. So, and this point is important because from this point is where you will get all of your guiding perspective lines, right? Okay, so using 1 point perspective is pretty useful when drawing like an interior, like a room, for instance. So I'm going to do that today. We're going to draw a room, and to start us off, I'm going to draw the back wall of that room. It's going to be a very simple room, very boxy, but these are the basics, so it's going to be okay. And to do that, I'm just drawing a rectangle that encompasses that point. It does not have to be super even. Your point does not even have to be in the middle of it, as mine clearly is not. Okay, so this is your back wall. That's, you know, we're gonna, here, have a window. Terrible. There we go. All right, so now we're going to draw the room kind of coming up towards the viewer. So you're going to line your ruler up with that dot and that corner of your back wall. and that creates an angle there, and along that angle you will draw a line. Boom. All right. Okay, so as you can see, we have a room. Ceiling, walls, floor. Okay, so anything that you put into this room will have to be guided back to that little dot. And so the easiest things, of course, to put into the room are going to be square objects. So to do that, I will start with a dresser. Okay. So I'm going to draw the side of the dresser. Let's make it big so you can see it. Okay. And since it is facing the viewer pretty directly, we're just going to draw a flat bottom to it and a flat top. Okay, but now the other end of the dresser is going to go about here, and I'm going to draw this line lightly because we're not going to use the whole thing. And that is because we're lining that vanishing point. That's what that is. I don't know if I mentioned that. That's called the vanishing point. Okay, we're going to line the vanishing point up with that corner. You can draw a line that meets that other side of the dresser. We're going to do the same thing with this one up here. You don't have to do it with these outside lines unless the dresser is clear, I guess, because they will just be hidden by the rest of the shape. So you don't have to worry about that. Draw on that other line, and then, yep, sure enough, just when I said we didn't need it, we need our eraser. So go back and clear up these lines here so it doesn't get too confusing, because now we're going to add the drawers. And at this point you can probably guess about how this is going to go, but since these are going to be kind of flat shapes, we're not going to draw an edge to it. I'm just going to draw kind of the shape of the drawers here. I am not evenly spacing them, but it's an old dresser. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Line it up with your vanishing point. Draw it there. Goes for all of the drawer corners. Cool. Alright, so we're going to draw on the other side of this. And there are the knobs. Okay, so there's your dresser. Okay, so same thing goes for if you want to draw a window, but this time I'm going to start with the perspective lines. So I'm going to kind of angle my ruler a little bit, decide where I want the bottom of the window to be. I'm going to put it about right there. I'm just going to go ahead and lightly draw that whole line. And then I'm going to find the top of my window. There you go. So now you can add in the edges of your window there. Okay, and you know, everything can really be led back to this point. So if you wanted to make this window look a little bit more dimensional here, you'd go from your vanishing point and you would just do one of these. Interesting point, if you want to draw like the window panes, the wood that goes in the middle of the window, to find the center, you'll just do this trick. Just go from corner to corner. Make sure you're choosing the right corners, outside corner to outside corner right there. And we'll draw an X. And this is actually your center. So I was off. Glad I checked. And there you go. And then to draw the middle window stick thing, technical term, we'll do that. So now you can erase these guidelines unless your window is taped down for a storm. And you have a pretty good perspective window like so. Okay, so you kind of see how we build things into the room, stuff like that. So now I'm going to show you quickly how to do a floor with a pattern. Okay, so I've started on a new piece of paper because it was not working out on the last one. We are going to now use 1-point perspective to draw a uniformly tiled floor. Okay, so think of a 50s diner. Okay, so to best show this, I think I'm going to do a small patch of floor, as it were. Let's see, let's start here. And I'm going to divide it up just into centimeters or half inches. Sorry. I don't know what I'm looking at. There we go. So that is the starting basis for our tiles. That's like the front of the floor. And then since I didn't do a horizon line or a vanishing point, I'm going to arbitrarily put it up there. And so now I'm going to connect each of these little guys to that vanishing point. Okay? Bear with me while I do that. Okay, so we have our floor divided into these long boards. So right now it looks like a bowling alley, so if that's what you were going for, done. But that's not what I'm going for, so I'm going to draw our back wall here. Just kind of pick a line, any line. Gonna cut it off right there. That is, yeah, okay, so that's where a back wall starts. Okay. So now basically all we have to do if we're going to have a uniformly square tiled floor is we're just going to find the midpoint of our floor, and that is so easy. You draw it from one corner to the diagonal opposite corner, bam, like that. And then you see each of these guys, intersections, not these guys, intersections. So wherever it intersects, we're going to draw a straight. Bam. Okay, there you go. So there is your uniformly tiled floor. You get the gist. Okay, so that's how you do a tiled floor. And of course you can make these longer tiles or shorter tiles. This is the way to find the uniform tile. So the thing is here, if you are going to try and do like a longer tile for some reason, what you would do is we're going to do another floor here real quick, not as big. All right, so to do that, here's our back wall. I'm just going to freehand it. You would find kind of the midpoint of one set of tiles, and then you would draw kind of arbitrary like where you want that tile to end. So as you see, that one's a little bit longer, right? Okay, so now we go from this corner to the midpoint here. Make a mark there. And when you draw a line across there, you have these receding long rectangular tiles. So again, you'd have to find the midpoint of one row and then find your arbitrary line of how big you want that tile to be, and then draw a line from this corner to where it intersects here with the midpoint, and the next dot that intersects with that line there will be the end point of this tile. Got it? So to find the next tile, you'd go from here to where it intersects here, And then along there, I can kind of eyeball it, but I'm going to measure it just in case. Yeah, you intersect about there. It was close. And you draw a line there, and see they look uniform heading back into the distance. And this is a good way to find like where fence posts would be, for instance. Now it's getting messy, but you can see what I'm saying. Fence posts or telephone poles, stuff like that, and then to find the top of them, if this one was, you know, however tall. Okay, don't just eyeball things. Don't be a hero. There you go. Now they're all uniformly tall if I erase what's on top of them. Okay, there you go. So you can kind of see then how we're doing. So these could be windows on a wall, telephone posts, anything like that. So anything you need to stagger going into the distance, this is probably a good way to do it. This is a shorthand for finding uniform tiles, and you can actually do a lot with this. So if you divide these tiles, if you find the midpoint of these tiles, you can suddenly have like different diagonals, stuff like that. So you can really play around with this one. This one is great for a variety of things that will appear in your image, like if you want to do a fence or whatever. So this is the correct way to do tiles and receding objects in perspective. I got there. Yay! So that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us, and if you liked that video, please make sure that you subscribe to the Westland Public Library's YouTube channel. Click the bell for updates. Next week we'll be continuing our perspective and going on to 2 Point, so join me then. Thanks. Bye.